Hi everyone. I know we're just a few here today. We recognize that, you're gearing up for field season and hopefully people are able to watch this after the fact today. My name is Sydney Miller. I manage the Vermont Bee Lab at University of Vermont and have been one of the key organizers around Vermont's adoption of FieldWatch registries. So we're really excited for you to learn more about this program today. The Vermont agricultural food markets recently contracted with FieldWatch to provide the services free of charge for all of Vermont agricultural and pesticide applicator stakeholders in the state. So now the map is open for you to create an account and utilize the program in any way that you see beneficial to your operation. So FieldWatch is an online mapping platform that promotes communication and collaboration between pesticide applicators, crop growers, and beekeepers. And Kurt Hadley here from FieldWatch is going to give us an overview about the program and talk to you in a little bit more detail about how to utilize it. But this webinar is mostly geared towards crop growers and pesticide applicators. We recently hosted a webinar with Vermont Beekeepers Association that was more geared towards how beekeepers might utilize it, and we'll be giving future. So if you're a beekeeper, stay tuned for that as well. So this is eligible for pesticide recertification credit if you are a pesticide applicator in Vermont. In order for that to happen, you either provided your pesticide applicator ID in the registration, and if that's the case, then no need to do anything else. If you did not provide your pesticide applicator ID, just send me an email with your ID and that you attended this webinar, and I will make sure that you are eligible for those credits. And in order for us to provide those credits, we just need you at the end of the webinar to fill out 2 poll questions that just let us know that you were here and participating. So how you're able to access those poll questions is in the top panel of this Teams meeting. You'll see several icons, one of them called polls. And if you just click that, it'll pull up a sidebar where you'll be able to visualize one poll right now that's live that says, please select the option that best describes how you primarily interact with FieldWatch registries. And then at the bottom of that poll, there's 1 out of 2, and you just scroll over to see the second poll and click the purple submit button. And so if you could, after learning about FieldWatch today, if you could just submit that poll at the end of the webinar, that would be great. Okay, so with that, and feel free to submit any questions throughout the presentation. I'll be keeping my eye on the chat. And so feel free to post anything there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kurt Hadley. Thanks so much for being here, Kurt.
Absolutely. No, thanks, Sydney. So again, appreciate everybody that was able to attend here live today. We also recognize, as Sydney said, that this is being recorded. So hopefully a bunch more of you will get a chance to utilize this after the fact. So I'm going to kill my camera right now just because I don't like being one of those people presenting. So you're looking at me and watching my slides. So I'm going to bow out and walk through the rest of this presentation. So as again, Sydney said, this is a partnership between both the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, the University of Vermont and the Bee Lab, as well as FieldWatch. So again, what I'm going to walk through today is telling you a little bit about the registry. So FieldWatch is the nonprofit behind all of these registries that you see: DriftWatch, BeeCheck, and FieldCheck for the applicator. And again, if you don't remember anything else, just remember that the state has brought this to you. You now have probably what is the only free insurance that the state will ever bring to you and provide for you. So one of the things I really like to do as I kick this off is, so how did this all get started? So it really started with a single specialty crop producer here in the Midwest in Indiana that, as you can see, was having a huge issue with claims due to off-target spray drift in the 2008 period. Upwards of $750,000 of losses were being incurred annually by off-target spray drift. And this was absolutely killing their production, their contracts for tomato products. So they came to a faculty at Purdue University in the College of agricultural and biological engineering who just happened to be an expert in mapping and GIS. And they said, hey, what can we do to solve this issue? And the faculty, Bernie, said, I think this thing called Google Maps is probably going to take off. Let's see if we can harness it. So that's exactly what they did. And as you can see, by 2009, this, problem was really held at bay. By 2010, the problem was almost completely gone. So this really made a huge impact for them. And really, the whole thing just absolutely took off from there. So when you take a look at this, if you don't remember anything else, like I said, feel free to read our mission. But the bottom line is we are the only national crop and apiary registry. We are a nonprofit. But the two primary things is once this comes to either a state or a Canadian province, we now have 3 provinces north of the border, but it's voluntary and it's a free tool that you have at your disposal. So with all that said, so how's it going? Who do we serve and how many do we serve? Well, DriftWatch serves roughly 47 to 48,000 growers of sensitive and specialty crops. And with the issues surrounding pesticides these days, there are more crops that can be mapped probably than crops that can't be mapped. Again, beekeepers. So beekeepers came to us somewhere in the 2012 timeframe, about the time that we were getting spun out as a nonprofit, and said, hey, what about our bees? Aren't pollinators as critical to agriculture as sensitive plants? And our board looked at that and said, yep, we understand that. That makes sense. So the registry of bee check was stood up. And you can see with each of these successive registries, it's really just a bit of branding and marketing to reach a certain group of people. Field Check is what we consider the all access portal for the applicators. And it gives the applicators the visibility of everything that is listed on the registry. I won't get into seed field check because I don't think there's a lot of seed production in Vermont, but if anybody has questions on that later, I would be more than happy to answer those. So let's take a look at where we started. So in 2014, this was the year that we hired our very first full-time employee, Bob Walters, who is our current president and CEO. He started with FieldWatch in a role very similar to mine, and you can see that even in those early years when they were really just starting to figure out how to better promote this thing and expand it across North America, you can see the impact in 2014. So fast forward a few more years, 2019, you can see that additional growth because really this was, for the most part, word of mouth, state to state, people talking about the difference it had made, the impact that it had made. And you can see even by 2019, we had 2014, actually, we had Saskatchewan on board. So, the growth was significant. So now let's advance to 2026. You can see that we've got 3 of the prairie provinces up in Canada. We're all the way into the Pacific Northwest. And lo and behold, we've got this state out in New England, Vermont, that just recently joined. And we're excited to expand things into Vermont because we really think that Vermont has the ability to really impact the entire Northeast region, the entire New England region, just by joining when you all have. So we're excited about that. So one of the things that I really like showing is just, as I said earlier, the overall impact. So this is everything as of today or late 2025 that was mapped all across North America. You can see honeybees in California and North Dakota and everything in between. Plenty of things mapped up in Canada. Now, when I took this screenshot, this was late 2025, so there was nothing yet mapped in Vermont. I just wanted to make sure I threw that in for you. So the other thing I like doing is, this is all of the crops, the apiaries, and everything that is currently mapped. So I'll take this exact same map and I will strip out all of the crop sites. And this is exactly what you see. So the density doesn't look a whole lot different. And I've zoomed out a little bit just to make sure that you get the entirety of North America. But the bottom line is there are a lot of things mapped all over North America. But you all are in New England, specifically Vermont. So do you really care about what is mapped all across North America? I show this to show you that the registry absolutely works in the areas that use it well. And at the end of the day, this is really a tool for the pesticide applicators to look at and keep themselves out of hot water. So now let's look at everything that's mapped east of the Mississippi. So again, when you look at east of the Mississippi, it is significant. And again, as I said, we really think that Vermont can and will lead the way here in everything basically east of what we see. New York is a state that has talked about it, has interest, but they just haven't pulled the trigger. Massachusetts as well, Maine. So who knows? But again, we're anxious and we're glad that Vermont has climbed on board, and we know that there will be significant impact by using the registry. Another thing that I always like to highlight when I come through a presentation like this is protecting pollinators, as I said, has really been part and parcel of what we do. We don't align ourselves with a lot of other nonprofits or become members with a lot of other nonprofits, but the Honeybee Health Coalition that you see here is really the primary exception. This is a great organization if you're not aware of them and what they do. There are a ton of other organizations that are aligned with the Honeybee Health Coalition, Project APIS M being just one of them. We attend their meetings at least once a year. We meet with them several times a year. They are a great advocate, and they also do a lot of work in DC. They really lobby on behalf of pollinators. So this is a great organization for us to partner with, and also potentially for you, if you're a beekeeper, to at least take a look at and be aware of what they do. So now let's just take a look at the growth that we've had. And I like this window of 2016 forward because that's really about the period when things really started taking off. So you can see the numbers of beekeepers from 2016 to 2025, as well as the number of hives. And obviously, anybody that's a beekeeper is aware that colony loss was fairly significant at the end of 2023 going into 2024. So that explains why the beekeeper numbers dropped, the hive numbers dropped, but we still see a ton of usage, and we see some of that actually coming back. So we think that's a good thing. So now let's take a look at the certified organic producers, because that's really a big one for us as well. There are a lot of crops, as I said, mapped in the registry, but certified organics is an area that has really taken off because certified organic folks know that for them, it's not just off-target spray drift that causes plant damage, but they can also have non-visible contamination of pesticides on their crops, which could then render a crop not saleable as certified organic. It could cause them to lose their certification. So for certified organics, it has really become a big thing, and those acres and numbers of growers have just really exploded over the last really 10 years. So now let's take a look at the applicators, because one of the things that we always tell folks is it really doesn't matter how many crops are mapped in a given area, how many bees are mapped in a given area. If we don't have applicators putting eyes on this map and modifying behaviors, changing things, then we've completely missed the mark. So you can see over that same time period, 2016 to 2025, we went from 1,000 applicators in 2016 to over or right at 17,000 today. Now, the interesting part of this is, and you'll see at the bottom, this number completely excludes an estimate, which we think is a very conservative estimate, of well more than 30,000 applicators who access the data directly through a precision ag or software platform. So I'll get to those details here in just a second. But for all of the users, so the applicator has a multitude of ways to access this data. You can see in that particular tractor or spray rig, they've got an in-vehicle mapping system. It's available directly there. They can access it via the web. they can access it via a mobile app called FieldCheck, which is available on both Apple and Android. The beekeepers also have a mobile app that is available on both Apple and Android. The only caveat here is we haven't stood up a mobile app yet for the crop producers, just because creating and mapping boundaries in a mobile app isn't quite as simple as it is in a browser. We're getting there, but I'll explain some of the advanced things that we're working on here in a few minutes as well. So now going back to those 30,000 plus applicators that are using the platform in precision ag systems. So whether it's John Deere up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen there, or Raven, which is owned by Case IH, and everybody in between, this represents, again, we're saying 30,000, but this is probably closer to 50,000 applicators. So all of your larger agricultural retailers, but also even a single aerial applicator might be using one of these platforms. So you'll see several in the middle, Flight Plan Online, ChemMan, Surety Pro. Those are really a little more specific to the aerial applicators. But the beauty of this is these applicators have either an in-spray rig, in-flight system that shows their mapping. Also, a handful of these also have a back office job marshaling or job generation dispatching system. In those cases, this allows those folks, those retailers, to put eyes on these maps more than once. So you might have someone creating jobs using, you know, let's see, one of them, Agvance SSI. They might be creating jobs in the back office, sending those out to operators for later today or for tomorrow. That dispatcher can flag those operators to say, when you go to job A, job B, job C, here are the hot spots, here are the risk areas that you need to look at. Now, one of the things that we always tell both crop producers as well as beekeepers, there are very few states or areas today that have any mandates for these applicators to contact you. But as you'll see in a minute, through the platform, they have every ability to contact you if they wish to. So the other thing that we always tell applicators is, nobody's telling you that you need to reach out and make contact. But when you do, and if you do, that validation of your behavior change or modification will pay off in spades, and you will really become that best in field or best practice applicator that those folks, whether it be a beekeeper or a crop producer, has likely ever spoken with. So this is just an example of one of those precision ag platform companies that uses our system. And the other big thing, and this is one that I really like showing, these folks have really put having our platform into all of their sales and marketing presentations, because they know how big of a difference this makes to their users. So we also have an area on our website that shows all of these testimonials. Again, our website is very transparent, so any questions that you might have, all of those things are easily found on our website. So now let's take a look at the actual detail that an applicator might see if they're doing some work in a specific area. So if you take a look at the larger map outside of that box, this is the area that an applicator might be working in. So that Millbrook Acres area or B site, this is what that applicator can then drill into, and they can see this producer or beekeeper's name, email address, as well as a phone number. So all of that is there for the applicator, again, if they choose to make contact. But we always tell folks that if applicators are seeing this and using it, there is a high likelihood that they are modifying behaviors, even if you're not getting contacted from them. Now, another thing that we started doing way back in 2021, and this was really an eye-opener, but this gave us some great data and some great feedback from all of our users. And again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time to go through each of these in detail, but if you're watching this now or later, feel free to come back and look at this, because some of these feedbacks and testimonials are really great. In fact, the one over on the far right, talking about they know the system works. They've had sprayer operators call to confirm where the hives are located and make sure it was okay to spray given wind direction, and also asking about the best times to spray. If that isn't a testimonial that an applicator understands what is going on with a beekeeper, and understanding that there is a window of time during the day when it's most advantageous for them to get out and spray. Obviously, very early morning while the bees are still moving slow, or late in the evening when the bees are returning back to the hive. Now, this next one is specifically for the crop producers. Again, really talking about the fact that these crop producers are aware that people are using it. And again, the one on the far right is also from a beekeeper, but it just, again, this one talks about the fact that this applicator calls every beekeeper within 2 miles of an application and gives them at least a 24-hour notice before, in case they need to, as they said, pen up the bees or close the hives before an application. So again, just really proving that it does work when people use it as the communication tool that it really was intended to be. So the other thing that I really like doing is just stepping back and making sure that everyone understands our funding model and how this is all put together. So we have a large group of different types of memberships. Vermont is obviously a member state, as are the other 31 member geographies across North America. We also have a great number of sponsors: food, ag companies, retailers, input companies. Without the support that we get from them and this whole list of folks, it just flat wouldn't be possible for us as a nonprofit to do what we're doing. So again, thank you to the Vermont Department of Agriculture, the Vermont Bee Lab, and everybody in Vermont that has chosen to bring this to you so that you now have this free resource available to you. And again, all of these things are also, again, as I said, very transparent on our website. But this next one is just a list of some of our higher level sponsors. This is not all inclusive. In fact, we have some sponsors that have chosen to say, hey, we want to support you, but we don't need anything in print. We are fine with operating behind the scenes. So again, this is just a portion of the folks that support us, but we're very, very thankful for everyone that supports us, because again, as a nonprofit, without all of that support, we just absolutely could not do what we do. So I mentioned that we're in the process of growing and making some changes. So in 2026, we're going to continue to grow. We've got some potential new states that are in discussion, talking about coming on board. I'm not going to name them right now because I don't want to throw that out there, but we've got at least a couple that are talking about coming on board, and possibly another Canadian province. But the other thing that this doesn't necessarily talk about, I guess it does a little bit, but we're working on a complete retooling of our back-end registry. It's a huge 2-3 year project. And once we get that done, we will very likely also launch a mobile app that the crop producers can use, harnessing a bit of AI such that a producer could look at an area on their phone that would be their field, a snap to grid that would allow a producer or a grower to tap on an area that is their field. It would immediately identify the boundaries rather than having to draw all the boundaries of that field on a phone, which could be cumbersome. With a snap to grid and using AI, we can capture all of that. As long as the acreage is good, you can submit it and run with it. So again, we're expanding and doing a lot of things to really bring this into the 21st century. So as I start to, sort of land this plane on this whole presentation, the questions that I'm going to ask of you, or you're probably asking, is, so what do I need to do? Well, the first one is simple. Get signed up today, or ask questions and learn more. Whether it's us, whether it's Sydney, whether it's anybody in state, they have the answers, or they can help you find them. And again, it really takes just minutes to create an account. The part that probably takes the longest is if you have a lot of crop areas and fields. That will take a little bit longer to get those mapped and identified. Same way with multiple beehives and apiary areas. But the other thing to remember is this is really owned and managed at the state level in Vermont. So if you create an account to map a crop field, an apiary site, 100 apiary sites, 100 fields, it will go across the desk of Sydney as your data steward or approver. So she has the ability to look at everything that you've mapped and submitted to make sure that it looks right. If she has questions, she can push it back to you to make sure that it all ends up right. Then and only then does it go on the map. So the other thing too, as a beekeeper, beekeepers have complete control of who does and doesn't see their bees. That's all in the uh, account creation process, and you can change that at any time. So you have the ability to map your beehives on a public map. So as of today, anyone could go to Vermont DriftWatch or beecheck.org and see everything that is mapped, but only mapped as public. You then also have the ability to say that I only want other registered users like me to see what I've mapped, or the highest level of security is to say that I only want registered pesticide applicators to see what is mapped in my area. Crop producers have a slightly different ability. When they map a field and get that approved, that shape or that field and that crop goes on the map so applicators can see it. But crop producers do have the ability, if they wish to hide their contact information from the public and only have that visible to the pesticide applicators. So again, we've got several things through the creation of an account that makes it a little bit more protective for you. So again, let Sydney know how we and her group can best promote the registries in your areas. But the bigger thing is share it with your neighbors, anybody that you know that does pesticide applications, retailers and others. That's really where this registry grows, because the folks in Vermont are going to be the ones that have the most vested interest to share it with others in Vermont and really help this registry grow. So again, ask questions, give suggestions and feedback. So I'm going to advance through these next couple of slides, and they are just simply QR codes that allow you to get signed up. So obviously this first one is the Vermont Beekeeper Sign Up. So snapping this QR code takes you, if you're a beekeeper, directly to the Vermont Bee Check sign up. It helps you bypass a couple of steps in going either to FieldWatch.com or going to BeeCheck or DriftWatch.com. This takes you directly to that sign up. So again, I'm going to leave this here for just a couple of seconds if you are a beekeeper, so you can grab this. But the other nice thing is, if you are watching this recorded, you've got the ability to, stop this, pause this, or whatever to make sure that you get where you need to go. Now, this next one is a producer or a crop grower sign up. This will take you directly to the Vermont DriftWatch sign up page. It pre-populates the state of Vermont, so you don't have to worry about searching for your state. This takes you directly into create an account there as a crop producer and get any fields or crops that you would like to get mapped on the registry. Again, I'll leave this up here for just a few seconds so you've got it. But again, feel free to also grab these, take pictures of them. As I said, this is going to be recorded and shared, but feel free to share these with others that you know, because really that's how the registry gets out there and it grows. So lastly, if you're watching this and you are getting pesticide credits and you're looking at this saying, hey, we've got a new resource, here is where you sign up as a Vermont pesticide applicator. So this takes you directly to the FieldCheck registry sign up. But again, one of the things I like telling folks is all of those different names, whether it be B-Check, whether it be DriftWatch, whether it be FieldCheck. It is really all a part of the same mapping system. The only caveat is the applicators really have what we call an all access pass. So much like going to possibly an NFL game, applicators have the all access pass, they have the field pass, they have the pass to the suites. The only thing they really don't have is free food and drinks. That we're sorry about. But this will get you into there and walk you through. Sydney also has a QR code of a brief video that I created that can walk you through the steps of creating an applicator account, because there are a few small details that really help you create that account and get the most out of it. Rather than going into those details here, I'll let you watch that video and walk through it. So this very last QR code is just simply taking you directly to fieldwatch.com. So that is our landing page that walks through everything about who we are, what we do, why you should care, and then gets you to all of the different registries to sign up or look at all of our membership opportunities, our sponsors, who we are, who we serve, and really gives you much of the background and many of the things that I've already talked about today.